Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hey, hello.
So tonight we have a packed house again, and so we're going to help the folks at home. If we're talking and you want to make comments about what we're doing tonight, because since it's Halloween anyway, we can scare the people, so we want to be sure they hear your scary voices, right? And I just want to say hello and thanks for to everyone that's joining us out on the internet world. We're streaming live to the world tonight from Nashville, Tennessee. My name is Brother T. I'm glad to be with you. Excited to be with you again tonight as we continue our journey into A Course in Miracles. Course in Miracles is a phenomenal, truly transformational work that's changed our world already. Now, this came out in 1962, and I think it was finished being scribed by 1972, 72. And then by the time they got it kind of edited and got it published for the first publication, I believe, was right around 1975. So that would be about almost 45 years ago now, right? And it's been translated now into millions and millions of copies, and it's circulating around the world. And we're here tonight to just talk about that. So I want to say hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us on the internet. And just double check. Yep, looks like you guys can hear us out there. So really thank you for watching us and viewing this at home whenever you are catching this and hanging out with us. If you want to leave a comment down below, right? Leave some comments for us if you've got questions that you want us to take on next week when we're back, because we're back every week at 7 o'clock Central Time. That would be 8 o'clock Eastern. And we'll continue to do this as we delve deeper and deeper into the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And if you want to leave comments tonight of things that you'd like me to address next week, then I'll do that. And we'll take it on, whatever you'd like us to consider in our conversation. And our conversation is typically fairly casual. We do get a chance to read a little bit from A Course in Miracles, the book. And if you have a certain section, a couple of weeks ago we had a certain section that someone who had been tuning in or had a class in another place had asked for us to consider, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, or it might have even been last week. I think it might have been last week. But the point is that I'm truly just interested in being helpful and helping people to understand A Course in Miracles. This has changed my life. It's changed the life of all those around me who've picked it up, and it has been completely transformational, and it's transforming our world as we know it now. In fact, the energy, I'll just go out on a limb here and say that the energy of our world is shifting because of our consciousness is shifting. And I give the credit of this shift to our brother Jesus for the work that he's done and has continued to do and will never stop doing until all of us wake up and return home. In A Course in Miracles, that's called the sonship, and it's called, the transformation is actually saying to go from a dream of separation to a happy dream. And so that transformation is really what our work is about. That's what we're doing here tonight. So I'm excited that you're with us. Thanks for joining in. Now we have a live audience here too as well. So we're going to kind of keep it interactive with everyone here. So if I'm not always looking at you, it doesn't mean I don't know that you're there. And if I'm not always looking at them, they know I'm looking at you, right? So we appreciate you being there. And I'm excited to jump in. So where were we? We were questioning something. We were talking about, we always get into these great conversations before we go live. Right? And then I get busy trying to go live with the technology, and I get off track. So what do we have? Is it on? Great.
So the question is about the 10 Commandments.
Okay.
Okay. Was it really written by God?
Well, here's the deal. I love this statement. All truth cannot possibly cause pain. Truth cannot cause pain. Now, I'm not talking about the truth like, I'm going to go get I had a cup of coffee for breakfast this morning. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about statements of profound truth, like all events are neutral. Can you imagine that if you were able to grasp that truth, that would cause pain? No, it's absolute. It's the absence of pain. It's the elimination of pain. When we begin to grasp spiritual principles, pain in our life begins to become fear, really, which is pain is an effect of fear. And it becomes, if you will, it starts to move further and further away from our experience. It becomes less and less of our experience. So you know, here we are in, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, 1975, when this work started being published, about 45 years ago. And how much has our world transformed in the last 45 years, last 50 years? It's been phenomenal. Because in 1975, I was in the Navy, and we didn't have the internet. I don't think I had a cell phone the entire time I was in the Navy. We had no way to communicate worldwide in an instant. And look how we've transformed our consciousness, because we can now shine the light of truth around the world instantly. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's going to accept it. And sometimes by some organizations, by some governmental regulators or whatever it may be, we're literally being forced to accept or to not accept a particular belief or whatever. But Spirit and the truth is always available. It's not a secret society. The Course in Miracles gathering here is open to anybody, and you can look at it online. And so anybody can grasp the truth now if they have ears to hear and eyes to see. It's available to us. But today, you know, our world, where we are today, we are, and we were talking about this again too just before we started tonight, that when, I think we were talking about, Donald, maybe in the 400 AD, around the time of Constantine, when the novelists who wrote the Bible were absolutely literate, and above the population, the masses of people were absolutely completely illiterate, right? And if we look at some of the work of people like, oh, the name's going to escape me now because I thought I was going to say it, right? Dr. David Hawkins, PhD, he wrote a groundbreaking work in 1996, I believe it was, called Power versus Force. And he mapped out consciousness in that work based on kinesiology. If you're not familiar with that, there's plenty of information out on the internet about it. But the point is that we have come so far in the last 50 years, and we have come a tremendous way in the last 2,000 years. But he was able, through kinesiology, to go back and track, if you will, consciousness of the people of our planet 2,000 years ago, right? And by and large, about 80% of the world was operating at a very, very low level of consciousness. We could say, for the most part, that they were oppressed by the power of the state. We could look at the Roman Empire, right? And the church at that time. And they were, you know, in our country now, in the United States, we have separation of you know, church and government, right? And there's a real good reason for that, right? Because we have a history of understanding when egos, if you will, the mind of the separated self gets involved in too much power, it really goes crazy and wants to rule the world. And people get tortured and murdered and killed and all that good stuff, right? So separation of church and state now in our country, not necessarily in other countries at this point in time in our world, but back 2,000 years ago, they were absolutely intertwined. And so we needed to know things, and we needed to have instruction 2,000 years ago, and we could go back another 1,000 years before that. And now, I don't know how many of you are convinced that if we look at what we say scientifically or what we say in our scientific community about how long has man been on the planet, it's, well, I'll just say that Spirit's telling us now that we're going to find out a lot more about our history than we know right now. That we've been around a lot longer than we think we have. But let's go back to a society that's completely illiterate, that's oppressed by government, oppressed by religion, organized religion. And there were certain things that were just so rudimentary that we were not grasping, we had no concept of, or at least we had no respect or belief in the power of those things. So when we were illiterate, when we were incapable of understanding complicated constructs, which we are not today. We are flying to the moon. We are talking instantaneously around the world. We are creating our very own currency that even the governments can't figure out what to do with it, right? Intellectually, and we have come so far since then, right? But back then, some very simple things were just something that would help us to move us in the direction of evolving our consciousness. So we could say, thou, right? We could say, here's a big one for me, shall not kill. Pretty basic, right? We all accept that without any question now. And we have a judicial system that protects us. We have a judicial system that adjudicates, between people, and we have a system of law, and I won't say justice, we have a system of law that deters people from doing them, because this is, having your life is considered today to be a basic human right. Nobody has the right to take your life. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
2,000 years ago? What's another one?
You shall not have. You shall not have no other God before me.
So we could say, because at that time when the Ten Commandments came down, there was this whole deal about the golden calf, and people are having orgies and all the great stuff that happens with the body. It's all good stuff. But anyway, they were completely distracted by the world of form, right? So on a rudimentary level, if we said that there's only one God, right? He's the one. And at the time, because of paganism and other religion structures, there was the belief that God was in the sun, God was in the planet, God was in the water, God was in the moon, God was God everywhere, and they were all different, separate gods, right? So the whole purpose that was shared to us through some work that Jesus has done these last few decades, in one of his sharings, he simply said that the whole purpose of the New Testament was to bring us to that point where we all agree that there was only one God. Now read the statement again.
You shall have no other gods before me.
One God. That's all that meant to say. That's all that was saying. That wasn't saying, oh, you dirty so-and-so, if you have there's another God, then you're going to be... It didn't say anything about that. There is no possibility of pain in truth. There's no possibility of pain in realizing the truth that there's only one God. How does that cause you pain? Unless you have a belief in a system where you believe you could suffer or be punished or whatever based on the power structure that supports those foundations of that religion. Okay, we could put it that way. But the interesting thing to me was, if we see that there is one God and there's only one, that God is all in all, then to say that God is in the sun is true. And to say that God was in the water is true, and that God was in the moon is true. That all of that's true. But when we made that God, the God of the sun, more powerful than the God of the moon, well, now, see, we're creating separation. We're falling into the trap of this little bitty ego mind, which is trying to make God up in its own image. Get that? Okay.
Okay. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Remember the Sabbath day. Now, we were told that God created the world in 7 days or whatever. Here's another good point about the Bible, okay? The Bible is total metaphor. Total metaphor. Now, there are a lot of literalists that would say that the Bible, is the literal truth. Nah, it's not. It's metaphor for all kinds of things. Creation never ended. God is creating, you are creating every day, every moment, every second. Because you and God are one, God is the creator, and creation never stopped. You're having an experience that you've created right now. Yeah, you've attracted us into your life. That's why you're watching this on your YouTube channel. When are you doing that? Oh, right now. That's when you're doing that. Yeah. Right? So that's a metaphor, and all it's doing is helping us to bring ourselves back, the mind back to being aware of our source. Because we have fallen into a disarray of mind, being confused, if you will, by our perceptions of this experience called separation, this experience called form. So this is just a reminder, really, from Spirit to say, don't forget who you are. Have we done that? Oh, yes. We have totally forgotten who we are.
So religions, bringing up in certain religions, they put the fear in us about these. Because, of course, Sunday, the Sabbath day,
Yeah.
you're going to go to hell if you miss another Sunday, and then even worse if you missed, you didn't go to confession and you went and had communion.
Okay, so we're gonna check the box here. That's making up God in our own image, because is man judgmental? Is man wrathful? Is man jealous? Is man crazy? Will man kill you or punish you if you don't behave the way they want to because they want to control you? Yeah. Yeah. So this is the ego mind making God up in its own image and not understanding what God is at all. God, can we just say we'll put God over here. Love has no agenda. It's quiet. It doesn't need to puff itself up. Does that sound like this guy over here? Right? And it's wise enough to remember those first three things. Spirit is not judging anybody for anything. But your brothers and sisters, the guy next door across the street on the other side of the world, maybe. Maybe.
Okay. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain.
Well, that's really nice. In other words, we should respect God. Well, we should respect love. Should we respect love? Yes. I mean, that's just a general, really kind of a common sense kind of thing. What's the opposite? Respecting hatred? Let's go to war with those people and kill them. That's respecting hatred. That's respecting fear. But love, just to recognize that love has no agenda and love is just love. And when we see the world through those eyes, we're better people. And the people that are around us, they like us more. And they don't try to kill us as much. That's a better plan.
Okay, one more. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Well, that's just common sense. Oh my gosh. There's things going on all around us all the time. I watched a show this week, which is kind of like our journey. It was called Mission Impossible. The fallout. What happens in the fallout of insanity when we listen to a voice that's made God up in our image, its image, rather than even taking or wanting to take a real devotion to understanding what God really is, what love really is. So, yeah, that's just common sense, right? But we were such bad actors 2,000 years ago. We were just operating completely out of the mind of, and this is the mind of insanity. It's deadly. We kill each other. But we have the choice to make a different decision. We have a choice. And so these very rudimentary, basic ways for us to behave with each other, they were needed. You know what? They're still needed today. But now we can move beyond that because we've accepted these admonitions of how to love and respect each other. Not even some of those were a little, maybe we could say, egoically twisted over time. By the way, I think all those were translated in Aramaic, right? And we're speaking English tonight. So the translation of some of those could have been influenced a little bit, tweaked a little bit by the ego, right? We won't get too deep into that. We'll try to get back into A Course in Miracles. But all of this is about the Course in Miracles. This is what A Course in Miracles is trying to help us understand. That we have graduated, remember the journey of the hero, right? Where the teacher came around and everybody thought, oh no, 1 + 1 is 3. That's what we decided it was in an era of insanity and not really understanding love. We made the error of maybe misinterpreting the teachings. But again, Jesus said that the whole point of the New Testament was just to get us to understand this simple thing. Because then that prepared us to go to the next step. All right, we got to go from the first grade to the second grade. We can't just jump right into algebra, once you get 1 + 1 is 2. You might need to take a couple of, additional levels of training and understanding. This is a course in mind training. Ooh, nobody wants to hear that. Well, I know, but guess what? That's what you're always involved in. You're always trying to be conditioned. You're always trying to be manipulated. Your mind is continuously being trained by one thought system or another. And there's only two thought systems, right? fear, and love. You get to choose. So when we say A Course in Miracles is a course in mind training, it's literally a thought system. There's only 2 thought systems. There's only 2 curriculums. You know, we're constantly by the world being trained in fear. Constantly being trained in fear. You don't have to go too far to see that, right? Really. It just takes a little bit of reason to see that, recognizing fear as an instrument for us to be controlled by each other, right? And then, of course, by using that instrument, we can say we're going to help you feel safer and protect you from who? Well, your neighbor. The person next door that is actually one with you, a part of you, that if that person truly loved you, why would you need to be protected from them, right? It doesn't make any sense when we apply some reason to the philosophies and the theologies and the training system, the thought system of the ego mind. But we have to shift, and until, at least for me, until I was even aware that I could make a shift, that it was possible for me to make a shift, I spent most of my life just thinking that fear here, that the world was my nemesis, the world was coming at me, and my job was to navigate through it as safely as possible. What I didn't know then, but what I do know now, is another spiritual principle that thoughts are things. And so my experience was actually predicated based on the thoughts of my past. I am a creator, like my father or mother or the universal source of all that is. Love is a creative force. And because I am one with that force, and you are one with that force, we're creating our experience, and our experience is being reflected. Or we could say our consciousness is being reflected to us through the experience that we're having right now, each and every day, each and every moment. Okay, are we good? All right, so that's one place to start. The other thing that I wanted to address tonight in some of our earlier conversation that was brought up before we got started, since we were live on the air now, we can jump in a little bit to that. And it was like, well, if I take better care of myself, if I can make the choice, if I can be conscious in making the choice to make a better choice, then maybe I won't have those sweets. Or maybe I won't be tempted to stop and get a meal that's not healthy for. I mean, I kind of know it, but oh, it's comforting, or I really like it, or I'm just hungry and I don't care. I'm just going to get something to eat, whatever the case may be. And so the point was, how can we experience miracles, right? How can we experience miracles? And if I do the right things, then maybe I could experience a miracle. Does that make sense? Am I headed in the right direction with that question?
Well, that's my possibly erroneous take on it, sir, but I could be wrong.
Well, no, that's a good, I'm going to turn that on. Say that again.
Well, that's my take on that I need to be prepared to receive a miracle.
Okay.
But I can be wrong too, so maybe you could give me a pointer on that.
Well, you know, the news is that you can never be wrong.
If I'm collecting manna, maybe I need a basket to put it in. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, that's a good point. It kind of goes back to the thing that we were saying earlier, and I'd asked the question was, have you heard the statement, Father, thy will be done, right? And we all agree, yes, we've all heard that, right? Well, when we say the will of God, what do we really mean? Is that some big booming voice that's going to strike me down if I'm not doing those commandment things, and I better toe the line? And what is the will of God? What is it? We talk about it all the time. Love? I would love for you to say that out loud.
Love.
Okay, so what does that look like? Isn't there a song that said, love hurts, so God hurts? Is that God? So are there 2 types of love? Absolutely. Yeah. In A Course in Miracles, it's called special love. I get it in there. Special love, which is actually, he says, special hate. Whoa, scary, Halloween. You mean love can be hate? Absolutely. Because a misinterpretation of love by a mind that's insane, a mind that's fearful, a mind that has no clue, no idea that love really is, that God really is, and any of it even exists, it would kind of be like trying to go into your dream tonight and get the dreaming self to understand the day you're going to have today and all that's involved in your life. And it's going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't get it. You have a life. It doesn't even know your life. It doesn't even know that you're safe at home in bed while you're dreaming at night. It has no clue of who and what you really are, who and what you really believe yourself to be. And so just pieces of that come together in an experience that it creates a whole world, illusory world of dream, and you're experiencing all those things over and over and over every night, right? It's always different. Even if you have a recurring dream, it's a different dreamscape. It's a different situation. The result may be the same. It may be the same person chasing you or whatever. But the point is that self, this little ego self, has no concept of the God self, the higher self, the true self, the Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind. The ego has no concept of that. That is the voice of love. That's the voice for God, right? That we could say is the Father's will. The will of God is love. Beautifully said, beautifully recognized and expressed. But it's not something that this small self can comprehend. I cannot get my cat to drive my car. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because contextually, conceptually, intellectually, it's beyond its scope. It's beyond its scope of capacity to grasp, right? So, that little mind makes up its idea of love, just like it made up its idea of God. And it's all made up. So what is its foundation? Its foundation is actually something that has the absence of love, or the opposite of love. And so what's the opposite of love? That's pretty simple, yes? We got the box checked off. It says, okay, but I can't go around looking like I'm hating, because then nobody's going to like me. And they're not going to give me what I want from them. I want people to give me stuff. And what do I really want? Well, I want love. But I want love the way I want it. I am special. I want love in a special way. And I'll marry you, darling, but as soon as you show me less love than I expect, then I'm just going to divorce you. I'm not too concerned about the vows. Maybe God won't send me to... Would he punish me for that? It is a contract that God's going to hold me to. I don't think so. See, because love has no agenda. Love just is. You see how we get twisted? How this little self is twisting every moment of our experience. And it says, I'm special, 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 special. My little grandkids are probably out running around tonight with Halloween costumes on going, I'm so special. Give me some candy. That's the basis of our relationships. Unfortunately, what happens when the other person falls short of our expectations of how they're supposed to love us because we're special and we have conditions about that, when they fall short of that, we express a whole new sentiment. So we go from love to hate just like that. Next thing you know, we're killing people on Halloween. No, we don't do that on Halloween. Yes?
Isn't kind of, a Halloween illusion, but if I put on a special costume, will I get more candy or better candy? I mean, wow, when I say costume, like I take a role of being the great lover, but you know what I mean? And maybe I'll get more candy. I don't know.
I love that question. How's my costume? Am I getting more candy tonight? Because the point is, this is a costume. You see? And so we honor people who have a better costume than us, and we put them up on a pedestal, and we say, oh, celebrity, they're special. Whoop, they get 2 check marks. And then we honor them, and then we find out that some of these people that we would think that they've got the world by the tail, they've got everything is going for them just perfect, they got money, they got fame, they got fortune, they got it all, and they kill themselves. I guess that better costume doesn't always give you what you want. It looks like being special gives us more love. Being special is just setting up another opportunity. It's a setup. It sets up another opportunity for us to hate ourselves or to think that the world hates us in such a way that we start hating ourselves and we start condemning ourselves. And so our self-worth, this is a big one, that's been determined by the world seeing us as special. It's all made up. The same way we made up God. We're fearful that we're not special enough, and maybe people won't like us or love us or give us anything. And we need to change our costume. I'm going to kill myself, and if I come back again, maybe I'll be better looking. Right? Maybe I'll have a better partner. Maybe I'll have more money. Maybe I'll write a song and I'll be famous. I'll be an actor. Well, you're already an actor. How's it going for you? You're acting human, and you're not human. You're spirit. You are real love. This is you, but if you don't tap into that mind, if you don't tap into that energy, if you don't allow this self to be ignored, then you miss out on the opportunity to know your true self. This is the capital S self, which is special, yeah, perfect. That's how special it is. Neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. You are perfect in the eyes of the mind of your Creator. How much more special do you need to be? And as soon as you tap into that self and you know yourself as that self, guess what starts happening? Miracles. Because actually the miracle is tapping into this mind. A miracle is a sudden shift of perception. And we're going from over here all the way over to here. And we're starting to experience ourselves as love. Complete transformation. And you know what? You care about your costume at that point? You take the mask off. You really don't care anymore whether anybody else thinks you're special or not. Why would you? God knows you're perfect. You recognize your perfection in God. All you're experiencing is love. There's no such thing as fear. The insanity's gone. And you and God are one. And the will of God is you. And the will of God has already been shared with us tonight as love. This is so simple. It's so simple that it only took about 1,500 pages so that we could get our mind around it. Because we don't believe in simple. The ego says, oh, no, it's got to be complicated. Good. He wrote it in a way that seems to be complicated. But it's not. One of my teachers used to say, this is the simplest book you'll ever read. Because it's just simply saying the truth. You're love. You're lovable. You're loving. Forever and ever. You're perfect. You can't really sin. You can't fail. It's impossible. Some of the purification statements in another channeling by the same author, The Way of Mastery, simply says, in lesson 21, there's 21 lesson 21, there's some purification statements in the first two. It's impossible for you to be without love. Why? Because it's like saying to a cat, it's impossible for you to be a dog. Why? Because you're a cat. It's not hard. I mean, you could try to teach your cat to be a dog, but it's going to have a tough time with it because it's a cat. And you can try to get this mind to be love, but it never can because its whole agenda, the only reason that you're having the experience is because you want it to have an experience of not love. Experience of not love. Is it crazy? Yeah. And of course in Miracles he calls it the tiny mad idea, right? we're a little crazy. And so when you listen to this teaching, you say, well, that's kind of crazy. Because if you want to be special, you're not going to like this teaching. If you don't want to judge somebody, you're not going to like this teaching. If you want to be right all the time, you're not going to like this teaching. So you can use this for a doorstop, whatever you give it to your neighbor or whatever. Who wants to not be special? Who wants to be humiliated because they can't be right at all because they're insane? You're listening to a voice of insanity. When are you sane? Never if you're only listening to that voice. But you can ignore. We might call that ignorance. I want to practice some ignorance tonight. And ignore this mind. That's why we came here tonight, is to give our awareness to this mind, the true self, the higher self, the Holy Spirit. Nothing more than your right mind. So how can we experience miracles? By taking a good deep breath. Miracles are available continuously and all around us. So let's take a good deep breath. And we turn within. And we make a connection to the voice of God. And that voice of God is your voice. Absolutely, it's your voice. It speaks to you a lot. You might be ignoring it. There might be some ignorance going on. But see, you're either ignoring that voice and listening to a mind of insanity, or you're going to ignore the mind of insanity and listen deeply, profoundly, and quietly for the voice of truth. And yes, it's still your voice. You might hear that voice saying, well, at some point you're going to have to realize that I am you. And it may sound like a separate voice for a time or period. It may feel like a separate entity for a time or period. It may feel like it's a thought in your mind that's not your thought. Spooky, Halloween, you're being possessed. No, you have free will. You have the ability to ignore the voice of God. That's how powerful you are. You can literally ignore the voice of love. You can ignore the voice of reason. You can ignore the truth. Or you can shut up, take a good deep breath, and listen. Because this is a mind of thoughts and thinking that have replaced, overshadowed, and screaming loudly so that you can't hear the voice of God, the will of God. This voice that just simply says, all this stuff doesn't matter. This stuff, the mind over here that's got us entertained with all of its illusory concepts and perceptions, none of it's true. You're not separate. You're not separate. You never could be. You're perfect. But neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. Jesus shared that with us. You can take that home. Write that down. Put it on your refrigerator. See, the Holy Spirit's holding your divinity in trust while you dabble with the ego. You and God are one. And when you let that be, you remember who you are. And it's profound. It's a blessing. It's a miracle. It's a shift of perception.
What was that again? Not behind the point of perfection?
Nor advancing toward it.
Say it again so they can hear you.
Did you mention not behind the point of perfection? What was the rest?
You are perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. And the last little hiccup there is, and you must see yourself therefrom. You need to begin to honor your perfection. Is there any possibility that you've been acting like me and judging yourself? Oh my God, have I been judging myself all week? I've been very harsh on myself this week. So I'm glad to be in this company. I'm glad to be feeling the energy of love because it's real and it's healing and it's joyous. It's awesome. So, what's next? This has been fun. What's our challenge for the day in A Course in Miracles?
Talk about lessons.
Anything you want to bring up? Is
So
that on? You can just leave it on, John.
So the 2 lessons, I do 2 lessons at a time in a week. So right now, I'm doing my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And when it says, I seem to be thinking about, then you name the person, then you say about an object, and then about an emotion. And then after you say, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. But you do it with your eyes closed, first exercise that way. So I can't be doing that when I'm driving anymore.
Yeah, don't do that when you're driving.
Nope, not that one.
You just tell your chauffeur to take over at that point.
Yeah, take over. So, you were just talking about thoughts and seeing things. So that was probably one of my best lessons so far. And then to add that today is I see nothing as it is now. So, because whereas your mind is closed, your eyes are closed, you're saying you see, but you're not seeing because your eyes are closed. But really, what you're seeing is memories. But that's real.
True, but what's
Lesson 8.
Thank you. Lesson number 8. Seeing is understanding. So when I say, oh, I see what you mean, right? I'm getting a grasp of something that I didn't see intellectually, not physically, or and all of the ideas that I have, I'm going to create some kind of an image. Imagination. I'm going to create some kind of an image in everything. This mind only really pretty much focuses through imagery, right? And so when I say wheelbarrow, everybody saw a wheelbarrow. Well, maybe you don't know what a wheelbarrow is, but it's just, Or if I say refrigerator, everybody just saw a refrigerator, but I doubt if we all saw the same color refrigerator, same size refrigerator, same make of refrigerator. We may have a good experience with refrigerators. We may hate refrigerators. I remember Jesus channeling recently said, man, I wish I could have had a refrigerator back then. That's a pretty good deal. I think he's right. See, we continue to experience love in new and profound ways of mind, right? And the Spirit really wants to make your journey here as comfortable as possible, even though we keep making it as miserable as possible. Because we're just a little insane. So let's go back. So seeing is maybe, instead of seeing of something physical, we might say, okay, I'm grasping and understanding. So A Course in Miracles really is about a grasp of a new understanding, a new thought system that we talked about a few minutes ago, right? I'm beginning to understand myself in a new way, right? Who am I really being? Because I'm always being one or the other. This is the true self that I've laid over my own thinking on top of it. So it's like putting it's Halloween, so it's like putting a sheet over you with a little thing for your eyes and your nose, and now nobody recognizes who you really are. What's underneath? Oh, that's the real me. Well, what's underneath that? Well, actually, the real you, right? So when I begin to see that I'm having an imagination and defining who I really am, and I'm ignoring I'm making up who I believe I am. This would kind of like be like playing God, right? Oh, it's great. It's a lot of fun, right? Until you get to the part where you can't experience love when you're ignoring love. And when you're over here playing God, you're ignoring your true self. So you're not really experiencing love. You're experiencing specialness. And maybe if you can get enough people to think that you're special, it feels like heaven on earth for about 15 minutes, right? Susan, I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so does that make sense?
Yes.
So if I'm starting to grasp my true self, that there is another way of seeing myself, then I'm beginning to get a new understanding of myself. This is called insight. This is called light. Truth is light, right? So You're starting to see yourself in a new way. We're starting to shed light. We're starting to turn on the light of the true self within you, that spark in your heart. Not the physical heart, but the center of your being begins to glow brighter and brighter. You begin to glow brighter and brighter. The next thing you know, your energy is shifting now, so people want to be in that energy. That's why I wanted to be here tonight. I wanted to be here tonight for many, many days this week. Because this is an energy of love and acceptance. We could call it unconditional love. I mean, you can be judging me. I don't know where I'm at because I don't know where you are. You're watching this online. You could be in India. You could be in Singapore. You could be across the street. It doesn't really matter. None of that really matters. You can decide whether or not this energy is attractive to you. It's challenging. I'm not going to say it's not challenging. Why? Because it challenges the entire thought system, the belief system that the world continuously, nonstop, pervasively is promoting and even punishing us for not agreeing with. But truth cannot cause pain. And we said thoughts are things, so if our experience is based on our thought, if I can have a new understanding that I can ignore this mind of fear and start tapping into the mind of love, what am I going to experience more of? Love. It's a miracle. As soon as I start loving myself a little more, the rest of the world kind of lines up with that too. And maybe I feel special. Or maybe I know my perfection. Because I'm not thinking and defining who I am anymore. I'm knowing myself through the mind and the voice of God. The will of God becomes my will. And so when Jay said, Father, when you see me, you see the Father, that's what he was saying. The small ego self experience that he had had prior to his enlightenment, which in his autobiography, Tina Louise Spalding's been channeling Jay now for a couple of years now, and he wrote his autobiography, and now the name's going to escape me, but it's basically the autobiography of Jesus, and he channeled this through Tina Louise Spalding. You can find her on YouTube, Ananda and Jesus, ANANDA, AnandaandJesus.com, I believe is the website. So if you're just new to this, and by the way, all of the channelings that she's doing of Jesus, pointing us back to A Course in Miracles. They're continuously, they being Ananda and Jesus and the consciousness of love, Christ consciousness, is continuously pointing us back to this work so we can start to break down this imagination that we have about who and what we are that is out of alignment with who and what we really are. So we step away from this idea of specialness, of hatred, and our definitions of love, and we begin to be informed rather than making shit up ourselves out here in the world of separation. Fun stuff. Okay?
Yep, that's good.
All right. What do you got for me, Susan? Anything from the course? She's awful quiet. Ted, what about you? I was in here the other night, or a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a piece of paper in here, and it had written on there, it said, "It's okay if this piece of paper has writing on it. It's just an illusion." Does that sound familiar?
I think it does. At some point.
You say, use it anyway. It's just an illusion. Very profound. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So you are surrounded. If you're in this group, you're surrounded by brilliance. I love it. So I don't know. Somebody said they made a comment. Was it a question or something? Was there any comments on our talk last week? Go ahead. Anybody? No? All right. We're gonna turn to, because we could quit streaming at the top of the hour, but as soon as we do, we'll probably get into some. So if you're getting tired at home, it's okay. So you can pause. You can mute. This is from my buddy down in Houston. He told me the other day that when we're live streaming, that you can pause it and go have dinner, whatever, and come back and it just holds the spot. So if you need to go to the bathroom, go ahead, Donnie, no problem. So Okay, so this is page 513 in this book, right? And it's called The Little Hindrance. A little hindrance can seem large indeed to those who do not understand that miracles are all the same. This reflects back to the very first principle of miracle in chapter 1, which says that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. If all I'm doing is correcting a misperception about illusion and getting in touch with what really is, and when I do that, I'm connecting with my higher self, my true self, my perfect self, the voice for God, it already knows that all the illusions are nothing. So if it looks like war, it's nothing. If it looks like famine, it's nothing. If it looks like pain, it's nothing. If it looks like death, it's nothing. It's not possible for you to taste death. It's not possible. So regardless of what it looks like, or it looks like somebody's flipping you off because you cut them off on the road, or they didn't like the way you drive. I know a lot of people that I don't like the way they drive. That's okay. I don't flip them off. I'm just saying there's no order of difficulty because that's all illusion too. Anytime you have any thought that's other than real love, and you have real love thoughts all the time, and you know it, you can tell the difference because you're not judging the other person, you're loving the other person. Let me give you an example. Cats. My cat doesn't judge me unless I abuse it, and then it might just try to protect itself, and it's so loving, why would I do that? An innocent baby. As soon as you see that, you feel a shift of your energy, your perception shifts. You're not judging. You're just going to a state of conscious awareness. And you're just taking it all in. Oh, look at this new baby. It's like I've never seen a baby before. You've seen lots of babies. This just happens to be a new one. And you're looking at it with no judgment. Of course you experience love all the time. Of course you do. But the little hindrance of insanity kind of gets in the way. So a little hindrance can seem large indeed when we look at the world of illusion and say, oh my God, that's real. I saw it on the front of the newspaper. It was on the top fold. It must be true. We're going to impeach our president. That presumes that you actually have a president. You really think you have a president? Are you being controlled? Are you making shit up? Oh, did I say that word again? I'm sorry. Yes, we don't use those words here. A little hindrance can seem large indeed to those who do not understand that miracles are all the same. Yet teaching this is what this course is for. Miracles are all the same. It's a shift of perception. We're going to start ignoring this self, and we're going to move over here, and we're going to fall in love again with what? This self, the true self, not the body self, not the costume, not the mask, not the imposter, not the actor. We're going to fall back in love with ourself. How do we do that? By recognizing who and what we are, by listening and being informed by it. This course, it says, this is its only purpose. For only that is all there is to learn. That's all there is to learn. We can throw the book, we can give it to our neighbor now. We can give the book away. We've already figured it all out, right? The only thing that's required of you to wake up to your perfect capital D divinity is to sit down and shut up and start loving yourself. Connect with the self that does love yourself, that knows your perfection, that knows the truth of who and what you are. Then the miracles start happening. And as we talked about last week or the week before, the body begins to realign with the mind. If the body is suffering from aging or sickness or disease, this mind, the true self, the higher self, when that mind becomes aligned with that, the DNA begins to shift, to change. The cells can replicate in a new way, in a pristine, perfect way. Right now, your cell, every 7 years, your whole body is replaced. Did you know that you can start talking? Oh, that's not in the Course in Miracles. It's all in the Course in Miracles. You can start talking to your body. You start talking to your body's loving you. And every time a cell divides, check this out. Every time a cell divides, you can simply. It's a point of decision to duplicate the way it's been duplicating, or to create a new pristine cell. There's a point of question. You start talking to your body saying, okay, every time you're going to replicate cells this week, I want all of them to be pristine. Who's in control? You are. Who's the body representing? It's representing your thoughts of yourself. You're the actor. You got the costume on. You can decide. To the world, maybe that looks like miracles. It looks like I'm starting to look better. My hair's growing back. Well, if that's important to you, maybe, right? But then again, you would say, if you're connected with your higher self, you would simply say, Father, thy will be done. You see, and what'd you say, John? You said it's not important.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Well, you got cancer. So what? I don't have cancer because I'm not a body. None of that's illusion. The very first sentence said, a little hindrance can seem large indeed to those who do not understand that miracles are all the same. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. Hallelujah. Get out of jail free card. Right? I'm loving this section that we're reading. And you can learn it many different ways. All learning is a help or a hindrance to the gate of heaven. Woo! You mean I can make a mistake? No. You can just hinder yourself. You can invest in insanity. Thinking. I think this, I don't like this president. I love this president. Is that all illusion? Is it all illusion? What say you? Is the whole construct of a government illusory? I'm seeing lots of people doing this. Are you doing this out there? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. Those are all constructs of form. All constructs of form are illusory. But as you said in your lesson, underneath it, right? Underneath it is the truth. Underneath this self is the true self. And all we have to do is get in touch with it. Yeah.
So basically you're saying, so I see lots of dead animals on the road. And
Right.
if I happen to be one of those people who killed an animal, the insanity of me is going to feel guilt.
Absolutely.
I feel that
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a bad
The
person.
animal, you're a bad person.
Yeah,
You're a perpetrator of animal murder.
I guess. But how do you get out of that feeling?
You go here. You take a good deep breath. You turn within, and I ask the question, are you there? And I get, of course, yes. What's the truth? And what I'm hearing in the moment is the animal is not tasting death. It's back in a flash, if it chooses to be back with you. Right? I did a talk a couple years ago about, that's a great question, thank you for sharing.
Only because I hit a rabbit last night.
You hit a rabbit? So, okay, so is it, are you worthy of being more guilty if you hit a fly or a moth hits your windshield? Are you more guilty if you hit the rabbit? Which one is more, we had up here where it says, thou shalt not kill.
It's the same.
Yeah. It's the same.
Is it same?
I wanted to comment on your statement. A teaching that I got one time, which was very helpful to me, is that animals are not as attached to their bodies as humans are. So that was helpful.
Yeah. Didn't even look
It's
at me,
like-
just right in front of me.
For them, it's no big deal.
Okay. So we're just
They
putting
just
the
don't
guilt
have a
on
body. They
ourselves.
just don't have a body anymore. That's
So
all.
we're just basically putting the guilt on ourselves.
right.
Okay.
You're making shit up. You bad person. You're not special anymore. You're no longer special. You're a bunny killer. Do you know how fast they duplicate, replicate? I heard this crazy thing today on the news. I can't resist sharing it. This woman in San Diego was living in a van. And she had 2 pet rats. Well, pet rats, I guess they're cool. But rats actually propagate about every 4 weeks. And every time they do, they have at least a dozen in the litter, or not at least, but they, typically. And so by the time somebody was complaining about her, they counted 320 rats living in her van with her.
Oh my.
So there are 100 rats in San Diego tonight that you can adopt if you want to have a pet rat. Because they took 100 of them and now they're available for adoption. No, we're not insane. No. Okay. Now, all learning is a help or a hindrance to the gate of heaven. That's good news, right? Because if you can figure out which voice you're listening to, right? Hallelujah. Can I borrow your bottle of water? Somebody asked me, said, when you do say the bottle of water, we'd really like to see the bottle of water, and this is a beautiful bottle of water. So just for those who wanted to know, what did that bottle of water really look like when we were having that discussion? There it is. We just want to make you happy at home, when you're safe at home. Nothing is, nothing in between is possible. Now that's a very important statement, right? Let's go back up. This is its only purpose. The course, what we're saying is the teaching of this course is that miracles are all the same. No order of difficulty in miracles, okay? And you can learn it many different ways. All learning is a help or hindrance to the gate of heaven. Nothing in between is possible. So what's he saying? That you're either taking a step closer to insanity, or you're turning your back, you're ignoring. An act of ignorance is absolutely appropriate. And you're taking a step in the other direction. See, we think that there's a neutral. Like I used to have a Volkswagen. It was great. I love Volkswagens, right? Back when gas was 16 cents a gallon. That's right. It used to be 16. The millennials don't believe it. 16 cents a gallon. And it had forward. It was a straight shift, so you forward, and then neutral, and then reverse, right? You get back up. Well, in mind, there's no neutral. You're either going forward towards love, or you're going backwards towards what?
Ego.
Hate.
Fear.
Hate. You're investing in a false concept of self, a self without love. That could only be a hateful, hatred self. I know that doesn't sound pretty, right? Well, people say this is dark ink because it makes you really look at your mind. Oh my God. So all learning is a help or a hindrance to the gate of heaven. Nothing is in between is possible. There's no neutral. You're either giving all of your consciousness to a false self, or you're giving all of your consciousness to your true self. There are two teachers only. The ego mind construct, which is, we could call it collective consciousness or group consciousness or mass consciousness, whatever we want to call it. It's a stream of thoughts of ego self that we are all connected with. And that's why we're all in this dimension together, because that's the mind that we're giving, that's the teacher that we're giving our awareness to. Or the teacher of love, capital T, teacher, is nothing more than your right mind, the higher self, the Holy Spirit, the voice for God, capital B voice, capital G guide, capital T teacher, capital C comforter, capital F friend, capital T truth, capital D divine self. That's it. That's your only choice. It sounds pretty simple. Why are we having such a hard time? Right? I shouldn't speak so loudly. Somebody said that I was yelling at people. I'm not really yelling. I'm passionate. Okay. There are only two teachers only who point in different ways. Right? What's that? That, right? Which are you? Which way are we going? And so I get all twisted up here. And I feel like I can't find my way sometimes. Because I feel like, oh, the world, the evidence of love. You get all twisted up ever? Well, you're not neutral when you're twisted up. Why? Because you're listening to the wrong voice. If you're listening to the truth, you can't be twisted up. All you're feeling over here is, oh, I love it, capital B, bliss. There are two teachers only who point in different ways, and you will go along the way your chosen teacher leads. This ego self will lead you, what do they call that devil thing? Is there any devils out there tonight? It's Halloween, right? Where's the devil going to take you? The devil is your insane mind, right, that believes that it could be separate or that it's special and blah, 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 blah. Right? And it's going to lead you deeper and deeper into darkness. Right? We said understanding is light. And so you're going further and further into misperception, misinterpretation, misunderstanding, the lack of understanding, the lack of light. Deeper and deeper into darkness. The other voice, capital T teacher, is leading us to the light. We've heard this expressed in thousands of ways by thousands of prophets, thousands of teachers, right? All pointing to the same thing. There are but two directions that you can take while time remains. Yes, time is illusion. And choice is meaningful. You are playing God. You can choose. You have the choice to decide for yourself when you're going to put on your cape and become that hero that you've been waiting on to fix your life. It's a look in the mirror. It's been you all along. For never will another road be made except the way to heaven. There are but two directions you can take while time remains and the choice is meaningful. For never will another road be made except the way to heaven. But choose, you, and we can say, when you're reading the Course in Miracles, you can really change the word if this helps you to make your reading easier. When you see the word but, just replace it with the word only. So I'm going to say, you only choose whether to go toward heaven or away to nowhere. You're not going anywhere, right? Sounds like we're sleepwalking, right? You but choose whether to go toward heaven, it was italicized, or away to nowhere. You but choose or you only choose. There is nothing else to choose. I don't know, should I eat this particular food? Should I drink this particular drink? Should I do this particular exercise? Should I marry this particular woman? Should I divorce this particular guy? It sounds like lots of choices. And how arrogant. There's nothing else to choose because you're only choosing between illusion and truth. You're only choosing the teacher that you're listening to, this small little devil self. I think the whole idea of the devil, that God would create a devil as powerful as love. Yeah, that makes sense. This whole small ego self. I mean, devil, it's a metaphor. Don't get upset. It's a metaphor. This small self and this true self. That's the only choice you're ever making. And so if we're focused on illusion, like the golden calf, right, then we're distracted. And so those commandments that 2000 or whenever that was, how long ago was it? I thought you were studying all that. You're supposed to bring that to class. If you're going to ask a question, never ask a question you don't know the answer to. So I should know the answer to that, right? But, thousands of years ago, yes, we needed those basic things because we were distracted. And we're not distracted today by that. Not at all. That's the only choice. There's only one path. And there's no neutral. You're either going forward or you're going backwards, right? So we're going forward or we're going backwards. That's it. On the path, road to destruction, to death? Well, yeah. You kind of think you're going to experience death, don't you? You're not. Hallelujah. Don't worry about it. Nothing is ever lost but time, which in the end is nothing. This is italicized here because this was taken out of the Foundation for Inner Peace version. If you're reading the Foundation for Inner Peace version and you're in this section, this is chapter 26, section 6, the little hindrance, and you don't see that in your copy, it's because that was taken out. So this is important, right? That's why Jesus has been well, I shouldn't say it that way. I'll say it this way. This is why I want to study this version, because all of the Your Text version, all of the original, scribing is included in here. So, okay, nothing is ever lost but time, which in the end is nothing. Time is nothing. It is but, or we could say it is only, a little hindrance to eternity. Time is just a little hindrance to eternity. I love it. Quite meaningless to the real, notice, capital T teacher of the world, which is the Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind. It is you. So if it's you, you have access to you. Not too difficult. Yet since you do believe in, quoting, and here's again, in its reality, in other words, the reality of time, since you do believe in its reality, why should you waste it going nowhere when it can be used to reach a goal as high as learning can achieve? A goal as high as learning can achieve. What would that be? Enlightenment. Awakening to your true self. No more illusion, no more fear, no more sin, no more sickness, no more killing bunny rabbits. Oh, see, wouldn't that be great? And there you are in the Garden of Eden, surrounded by those bunnies that you thought you killed. Never happened. No more illusion. And all those flies that you had on your moss and on your windshield, they're all there too. Yeah. You remember when you were doing 80 down that road? Oh, I love it. Yet since you do believe it's reality, time's reality, why should you waste it going nowhere when it can be used to reach a goal as high as learning can achieve? Think not the way to heaven's gate is difficult at all. It sure as hell seems difficult, doesn't it? I mean, if you turn on the news. Is it difficult? What say you? Is this difficult? Well, why are you still here?
I'm going to say it's difficult when we're in the insane mode.
It's difficult when we're in the same mind, when we're in this mind.
Like judging ourselves or questioning if we made the right decision to do this or that,
Right.
etc.
So here's the point. Is the juice worth the squeeze? What are you getting out of playing God? You get to be God. You get to be right. You get to create what you want, your little special self wants to create. It's a hell of a good trip. You get to have sex, you get to jump out of airplanes, you get to fly airplanes, you get to play the horn, you get to play the guitar. You get to write programs that allow people to communicate around the world. And so you can see them in your little box on your lap right now. It's great. Of course you enjoy it. The only problem is it's an illusion. It's a dream, right? So at some point, after a while, it's like, I just want to wake up because I'm kind of bored with the dream. I've been everywhere, every when. I did the war thing, I got murdered, and then I murdered a few people. I got married, I got divorced, I got married, got divorced, got married, got divorced, and now let's just get married. Let's just stay married. There's no point in getting divorced because that's just bullshit. Because the next person that shows up is the same person. They just got a little different bag of skin, but it's still the same person. The road goes nowhere. Because who's showing up is somebody that's vibrating at your energy of consciousness. And if you don't change, the person that's showing up is not a different person. Not really. They're lining up with you. You don't think this is crazy? Love this chapter. Think not that the way to heaven's gate is difficult at all. Nothing you undertake with certain purpose, and high resolve, and, I like this part, happy confidence, holding each other's hand. Yeah, you can't do this by yourself because you're not separate. You didn't come here separate. You ain't leaving here separate. You're not going to be experiencing life separate. Holding each other's hand and keeping step to heaven's song is difficult to do. Nothing you undertake with certain purpose and high resolve and happy confidence, holding each other's hand and keeping step in heaven's song, is difficult to do. This is not difficult to do, but it does, to me, appear to be helpful for us to stay connected, to stay together, even through this medium called the internet. When we can be in physical form, I feel much more connection and intimacy and the energy of love, obviously, than I could by, looking through a camera. I know you're there. I appreciate you being there, no question. But maybe if we get another computer where we can see each other, we could do Zoom, simultaneous Zoom. But then that might distract you. We don't want to do the golden calf thing, right? We don't want to go backwards. We're trying to go this way, right? We want to go towards heaven. Nothing you undertake with certain purpose and high resolve and happy confidence, holding each other's hand, helping each other out, and keeping step to heaven's song is difficult to do. But it is hard indeed to wander off alone and miserable. He's so poetic. Alone and miserable down a road which leads to nothing and which has no purpose. Wow. What say you? Is this believable? Is this possible for us to let go of this?
It's difficult, but
It is. But he says it's easy. So how is he saying it's easy, and and why are we saying it's difficult? Perfect. Use that microphone and tell the people at home.
The ego is making it difficult.
Yes, it is. Because the ego says, what happens to the ego if you're like, oh, I'm special,
It doesn't
and then you
exist.
go over here, what's the ego getting out of the deal? It may be death, right? At least you're no longer giving it your awareness. Now, the rest of the world may be still propagating this mass consciousness of fear and insanity, but you've stepped out of it. And if one person steps out of it, then it begins to shrink. And then another person, and another person. And at some point, and that is the miracle ultimately of you and why you have been chosen and why you raised your hand and said, I'll go, because, I don't know, October 31, 2019, I'm going to get it. I'm going to make an investment in my life of awakening that I've never done before, not to that level of commitment, this happy confidence of self, knowing that it's possible, truly believing that it's possible now, making commitment. I'm going to withdraw my power from the world of illusion, and I'm going to be the light instead of adding to the dark. Course in Miracles says you are the Savior of the world. Ooh, that's scary. There's some people out there tonight that are donning that Jesus costume. I know you got one on. And Jesus loves you for imitating him, because he's been claimed to be the salvation of the world. I know that's harsh, that he would be special and you're not. That's not the point. If you and God are one, then you and Jesus are one. And if you awaken to the same enlightenment of mind that Jesus did, then who's the salvation of the world? You are. Because you withdrew your lack of love and became the light instead of contributing to the dark. Make sense? But you got to quit eating all that candy that you're getting from this playing God, this acting human, this being something that you never were, never could be. It's all illusion. And investing in time and separation and specialness. It's not you. Well, it's you when you choose to be it, but it's a false self. And if you've ever gone on Halloween like I have with a mask on, after a few hours, it's miserable in there. They won't give you a beer until you take it off anyway, because they got to see your ID. They need to know that you're old enough to drink, right? Illusion, the mask, the pretense. We don't have to pretend anymore. And that's part of it for me, is to be unafraid, to be who I believe, who I know I really am sometimes, in the face of life, adversity, people, whatever environment we might find ourselves in. If we put ourselves out on the internet, and maybe you've never done that, but there is this idea that maybe you won't be liked, maybe you might even be hated. Yeah. But if you and God are one, when you're joined in that mind, then you're a majority. The rest of the world is literally outnumbered because its perception is illusion, and there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And as soon as I connect with this self, as soon as I begin to allow this self to be expressed through me as me in form and field, then there's no possibility of fear. Right? So all the constructs of this self are based on fear. So it's letting go of commitment to a belief system, thought system, what the world is teaching, of letting it go and just saying, you know what, I'm just not going to give that my consciousness anymore. And how can I step away from it? By being joined with somebody else that is on this pathway, that is being the light. So in A Course in Miracles, at some point, we're not going to talk about it tonight. Well, maybe. We only got 8 minutes, so we could barely even take a couple more breaths and it'll be over. The point is, the Course in Miracles talks about a holy relationship. So in a holy relationship, and it's really pretty simple, in a holy relationship, what we're really doing is, first, I'll describe it this way, because it kind of is my practice of what we call the holy instant, okay? And we're talking about time, this little hindrance of time. And so I'm going to say the holy instant is my practice of the holy instant is to take that good deep breath. Let's do that right now. Take a good deep breath. Step 2, for me, is to connect. And so how do I connect? I begin a dialogue with the inner self. Now this is an inner dialogue. You don't have to speak it out loud. Now, if you speak anything out loud, you're saying it with more passion. So I'm going to say out loud, are you there? And listen. And of course I get the answer. I get the wash of truth that says, of course, you cannot be alone. It's impossible for you to be alone. That is a spiritual truth. That is a truth, capital T truth, that can never cause you pain. Think about that. Can never cause you pain. Yeah. That's how you know it's a truth. So now let's say we're connected. And we then simply say, since we're having a conversation with ourselves, it's pretty easy. We simply say, what's the truth? What's the truth? And then this is the hard part. You have to shut up. Don't fill in the blank. Don't let the thinking mind fill it. Oh, I know what the truth. It doesn't know truth at all. The cat can't drive the car. So this is where you step to the back seat, let go of the steering wheel. This is where you release, surrender, and let go, and allow, and forgive yourself. That is, to move back before you gave a judgment of whatever it is you're asking about. Whatever it is you're asking about. And the Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind, takes the third step. And the third step is to tell you, respond to your question. Period, period, period. It's not complicated, right? So that's called the holy instant. So what did I do? I became connected and allowed myself to be the channel, the vessel of truth, my higher self. Okay? So now we're going to take it to a relationship with someone else. And it's the same process. We can't get it in neutral. We're stuck over here in insanity land, and we're going to take that good deep breath, which is shifting gears. And now we take a step towards connection with the higher self. And in that moment, you become a holy person. Pretty cool. That doesn't mean you have a halo and you got a lot of people following you around. That's probably not going to happen. Because they may not see who you really are yet. But I'll give you a definition of a holy person that was shared through a channeling by Jesus. And yeah. And this was what he described as a holy person. I love it too. You can recognize it immediately. It's an incredible friend. Have you ever had an incredible friend? I'm now hearing this song in my head that says, what a friend we have in Jesus. Spirit has a great sense of humor. Indeed. An incredible friend. So the person that you're with then, in every interaction. Now, we can say, oh, do I need to go to Spirit when I'm just going to have a cup of coffee? What? Why not practice? Spirit might say, do you really? You don't really need that. What voice are you trusting? But you have free will, so you can still have the cup of coffee. See, there's no punishment in Spirit. There's no judgment in Spirit. There's only love. There's only love. So now, in this holy relationship with whoever you're with, by the act of stepping into the light of who you really are in your true self, you are indeed listening to that voice, and you say, what's the truth? And then that voice says, give them a hug. Don't say a damn thing. You don't need to comment. You don't need to commiserate with their perceived misery. You just need to be the presence of love. You can be an incredible friend in any moment with anyone. That is a holy relationship. So I said we couldn't do it in 8 minutes, and there you go. That's a miracle. Because Spirit has a great sense of humor. And we could talk about it for an hour, and we're going to dig deeper and deeper into it because we're going to spend a couple of chapters talking about holy relationship. And we're going to dig deeper and deeper into grasping and allowing ourselves to make these connections on a more and more profound level. It's simply a practice. So like when I go to the gym and I lift the weight the first couple of times, how we doing? We got a couple minutes. When we go to the gym, I can't do that 300-pound barbell thing. I can do the 25. But after 3 or 4 years of doing it every other day in my routine, yeah, don't mess with me. I'll tell you, I could be like my buddy who could take I don't know how heavy those big, they call them heavies, on the radio when they're flying into the airport for landing, heavy approaching. I don't know how heavy those things are, but one person can lift that, because of a belief system, can lift all of that weight completely off the ground. And you can ride in safety. See, it's all about belief. But I don't want somebody that's never had one of those little planes for the first time come off the runway and take me up with them and tell me that they're going to fly this heavy and I'm going to be, no, I don't think so. And you may not be ready to fly that heavy yet. But he ain't heavy, he's my brother. And you are the lifting. That the world's been waiting for. The world's been waiting for you. Been waiting for every one of us to wake up. Now's the time. And it's only Halloween. Christmas is coming. We got plenty of time to get ready for the birthing of the new Christ. How fun. What a metaphor. Let's take a good deep breath. We're going to close out with a prayer. I'd gladly make the sacrifice of fear. Here's the only sacrifice you ask of your beloved child. You ask for us to give up suffering, to give up all suffering, all sense of loss and sadness, all anxiety and doubt, and freely let your love come streaming into our awareness, healing us of pain and giving us your own eternal joy. Such is the sacrifice that you ask of me, Father, and only I gladly make. The only cost a restoration of your memory in my mind, to me, for the salvation of the entire world, is to give up sacrifice. As we pay the debt that we owe to truth, a debt which merely is the letting go of self-deceptions and of imaginings and images we worship falsely, truth returns to us in wholeness and in joy. We are deceived no longer. Love is now returned to our awareness. And we are at peace again, for fear is gone, and only love remains. That's the miracle. And it's happening now, all around us and within us. Namaste. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. You guys are awesome.
What page was that?
Oh, that was lesson number 323. I want to say thanks to you guys at home. Thanks for joining us. You can get this book online. You can get this book in lots of places. Get you a copy. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. This is Brother T signing off. Love and blessings, brothers and sisters. Have a great week. Hope to see you again next week.